Welcome, everyone. This evening commemorates the strength and courage of 10 Baha'i women who were executed for being Baha'is and their belief in the equality of men and women, justice, and truthfulness in Iran 40 years ago. Many other precious souls have been executed for the same beliefs, and this evening we celebrate the courage of these 10 women, the courage which continues to live on in the women of Iran and many places around the world today, who follow the same path for justice for all. This evening is part of a year-long campaign for the equality of men and women that started this June and to date has reached hundreds of millions of people in countries all over the world. The momentum of this campaign has been augmented by an outpouring of statements from the United Nations officials, high-level dignitaries, government figures, parliamentarians, Nobel Peace Laureates, artists, prominent individuals, members of the public, and even those currently in prison in Iran. What we say here is not a political matter, and there will be no politics involved. This evening is raised to the level of principle and the deeply felt beliefs of the Baha'i community, exemplified by the lives of its believers, their devotion and sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice. We will start with a description of the 10 women we are commemorating tonight, followed by artistic presentations about these 10 precious souls, and then some Baha'i quotes on the equality of men and women. After that, we will proceed with our keynote speakers.
The date is 18th of June, 1983. The city is Shiraz in Iran's southwest. 10 Baha'i women are hanged. Most are in their 20s. One is just 17. The group includes a mother and a daughter. Their crime? Refusing to renounce their beliefs in a faith promoting gender equality, unity, justice, and truthfulness. The women are arrested months earlier at the onset of winter. Deprived of the right to a lawyer and denied a trial in a public court, they suffer harsh interrogation and torture by revolutionary guards. Through the violence, their captors repeatedly attempt to coerce the women to deny their faith and escape execution. None agree. On June 16th, 6 Baha'i men, some of them relatives of these women, are executed. 2 days later, on June 18th, 1983, the 10 women are secretly taken to Chogan Square and hanged one by one as the remaining women watch. The youngest, by her own request, goes last. Their families are not notified of their deaths. Their bodies are not returned to their loved ones. They do not receive dignified burials. Their names are Mona Mahmoudinejad, 17. Roya Eshraghi, 23, executed along with her mother, Ezat Janami. Simin Saberi, 24. Shaheen Shirin Dalvand, 25. Akhdar Sabet, 25. Mashid Nirmand, 28. Zareen Moghimi Abiane, 29. Tahara Ajamandia Siavashi, 30. Her husband Jamshid Siavashi has been executed 2 days earlier. Nosrat Ghofrani Yaldai, 46. Her son Bahram Yaldai has been executed 2 days earlier. Ezat Janamia Eshraqi, 57, mother of Roya. Her husband Enayat Rawhani has been executed 2 days earlier. The story of the 10 Baha'i women is not over. It was a chapter in the unfolding story of Iranian women's resilience and sacrifice for equality. Today, in the blood, tears and wounds of thousands of young women in Iran seeking equality, we can see echoes of the injustice suffered by the 10 women of Shiraz, whose tragic death touched the lives of many. We see the same spirit, the same choice being made to stand up for the principles of justice and equality with utmost effort. Though mistreated and imprisoned, today's women, just like those before them, are bravely striving for a just and prosperous Iran. Today we honor not only these 10 women of Shiraz, but all women across Iran who cherish the principle of the equality of women and men, and who have contributed to building a better future for the country through their perseverance in the face of oppression. We will raise our voices until our shared ideals are realized. Our story is one.
Shiraz, where stories unfold. 10 Baha'i women, strong and bold. Their lives snuffed out in endless night. Their voices silenced, out of sight. With hearts aflame, they stood so tall. Defiant spirits, they gave their all. Unyielding in their fervent plea for unity, peace, and harmony. Their crime, believing in one God, embracing love, where hope is all. But in their land, oppression thrives, where freedom's flame struggles and strives.
Through tears that fell like fallen dew, they held their faith, steadfast and true. In every trial they stayed unswayed, with strength and courage, souls unfrayed.
10 Baha'i women will remember their lives cut short, but still they shimmer, their courage shines, a beacon bright, guiding us towards a just world's light.
This song is dedicated to the 10 Baha'i women who were executed on June 18th, 1983 in Shiraz, Iran, simply because of their faith, and to all who work for gender equality in Iran and around the world. No force on earth can stop an idea whose time has come, and ever since the beginning of time, No night in history can stop the rise of the sun. Every page, every chapter, every word, every letter has a purpose in the book. Our story is one, from the page to the tongue. The words and the lyrics of a song aren't alive until the melody's sung. I sing, on that night in Shiraz, 10 women as one, standing up for justice and equality. What a sight as she rose in the dark of the night, like a sun for the ones who have eyes to see. What was their crime? Teaching children to love all of humanity. What if that was me? What if that was me?
The struggle is long, but one we will overcome. For in the pain and the sacrifice, the glory is won. The light of His Spirit as bright as the sun. We honor the name, our story is one.
Ezat, you earned the most exalted title of a martyr with your daughter. What an honor. Nosrat, a faith in God that would guarantee that this cause will see ultimate victory. Tahare, through the torment and torture that you endured, you kept the spirit and heart so pure. Zyrene, so devoted with a heart like gold. Now your name will be remembered all the way to the golden age. Mashid Akhtar, in the dark of oppression you both shine like the moon and the stars. Shaheen, so detached from this world like a falcon in the breeze, soaring heavenly. Samin, even in the face of death you kept smiling, cause your spirit knew the silver lining. Roya had the vision too, welcomed what the villain would do. Mona kissed the rope as her life was severed, now their spirits live forever, yeah.
The struggle is long, but one we will overcome. For in the pain and the sacrifice, the glory is won. The light of His Spirit as bright as the sun. We honor the name, our story is one.
Turn back to the beginning of the book. In the sight of God, men and women have always been equal. Take a look in the pages of our history. Any lack of progress from women was the result of lack of opportunity, often put in place by men. And these systems of patriarchy are still causing oppression, trying to silence their voice and take away their choice and deny their human rights. So we continue the fight as we enter into a new chapter, where the theme is gender equality at a level that we've never had. Turn the page and remember that you are an actor in the spiritual drama, ready to reach a climax where men and women are equally strong. Like two wings of a bird, can't fly on our own, need both for humanity to soar. We are one till we reach gender equality. This story isn't done, no.
The struggle is long, but one we will overcome. For in the pain and the sacrifice, the glory is won. The light of His Spirit as bright as the sun. We honor the name, our story is one. The struggle is long, but one we will overcome. For in the pain and the sacrifice, the glory is won. The light of His Spirit as bright as the sun. We honor the name, our story is one. What if that was me? What if that was?
Sing along, say. Hey. 40 years ago in Shiraz, Iran, we remember 10 young women executed mercilessly, brutally. One by one they took their lives away by hanging. Tell me what is your game? One by one they took their lives away by hanging. Tell me what is your game? Only touch their body, we can never stop their spirit. Now waxing stronger, inspiring many other young people. This is a song of victory. This is a unstoppable movement. We stand together around the world. Our story is one. Come sing along, say. Is it wrong to work for justice? Is it wrong to work for equality? Is it wrong to help little children? Is it wrong to love God and man? Our story is one, all over the world. Our story is one. Our story along, tell them say our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. Our story. Listen on up. This is it. Hey. I want you to know the wall of being is like unto a bird. A bird we know needs two wings to fly. Hear me now. One is the man, the other is the woman. Yeah. Why destroy one wing of the bird? Think again before you act. So there's one women are key in progress stability. This is a song of victory. This is a unstoppable movement. This is a song of victory. This is a unstoppable movement. We stand together around the world. Our story is one. Come sing along. Say, is it wrong to work for justice? Is it wrong? Is it wrong to work for equality? Is it wrong to help little children? Is it wrong to love God and mankind? Our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. Listen up, follow me, sing along. Our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. Sing along. Our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. All over the world. Our story is one. Our story is really one. All over the world. Sing along.
And among the teachings of Baha'u'llah is the equality of men and women and men. The world of humanity has two wings. One is woman and the other men. Not until both wings are equally developed can the bird fly. Should one wing remain weak, flight is impossible. Not until the world of woman become equal to the world of men in the acquisition of virtues and perfections can success and prosperity be attained as they ought to be. Abdul Baha.
Therefore, the mothers will not sanction war, nor be satisfied with it. So it will come to pass that when women participate fully and equally in the affairs of the world, when they enter confidently and capably the great arena of laws and politics, war will cease, for women will be the obstacle and hindrance to it. This is true and without doubt. Abdul Baha.
Women have equal rights with men upon earth. In religion and society, they are a very important element. As long as women are prevented from attaining their highest possibilities, so long will men be unable to achieve the greatness which might be theirs. Abdul Baha.
The woman is indeed of the greater importance to the race. She has the greater burden and the greater work. The mere size of the brain has been proved to be no measure of superiority. The woman has greater moral courage than man. She also has the special gifts which enable her to govern in moments of danger and crisis. If necessary, she can become a warrior. Abdul Baha.
The world in the past has been ruled by force, and man has dominated over woman by reason of his more forceful and aggressive qualities, both of body and mind. But the balance is already shifting. Force is losing its dominance, and mental alertness, intuition, and the spiritual qualities of love and service, in which woman is strong, are gaining ascendancy. Hence, the new age will be an age less masculine and more permeated with the feminine ideals. Or, to speak more exactly, will be an age in which the masculine and feminine elements of civilization will be more evenly balanced. Abdul Baha.
Therefore, strive to show in the human world that women are the most capable and efficient, that their hearts are more tender and susceptible than the hearts of men, that they are more philanthropic and responsive towards the needy and suffering, that they are inflexibly opposed to war and are lovers of peace. Strive that the ideal of international peace may become realized through the efforts of womankind. For men is more inclined to war than women, and a real evidence of women's superiority will be her service and efficiency in the establishment of universal peace. Abdullah.
Thank you for those beautiful quotes. Our first keynote speaker is related to two of the women who were executed for their beliefs that weaken Iran, as well as two of the women. One was her sister and one was her mother, as well as her father, who was executed 2 days before. May I introduce to you Mrs. Nahid Mazin.
Good evening. It's truly an honor for me to stand in front of you to talk about my family, two of them among the 10 women whom we are remembering tonight. My mother, Izzat, and my sister, Roya. Although I'm focusing on their life story, but you will see that their life story depicts the story of all these 10 women and the story of women who loved life and wanted to live it fully, and wanted to live it fully in order to be able to serve humanity in one way or another. The executions happened in 1983, and since then, I keep playing and replaying in my mind the snapshot of memories that I had with them. Waking up to my mother chanting prayers, walking to school with my father, enjoying the company of streams of visitors to our home, which benefited from the warm hospitality of my parents, and my mom's delicious cooking, of course. It helped. My father planting pansies in spring, and my mother collecting orange blossom petals to put around the house or to make jam. Roya clinging to me as a toddler to read her stories, and then later when she was able to read, always finding her in a corner of the house surrounded by books and magazines. Remembering my father pacing the room back and forth while trying to help me to write my essay homework about whether knowledge is better or wealth. Most of the Iranians know of this very popular topic. And I also remember my mom's rubbing her hand whenever she was anxious or when someone was hurting. Or I remember my sisters arguing about watching TV when one of them wanted to watch her favorite series and the other one lecturing her about the evils of wasting time. And it wasn't even time for social media at the time. These memories are carved in my mind, and these are memories that every person experiences similar memories in their life. Memory of very ordinary life of people who loved life and wanted to live it. My father was working for National Oil Company for almost 30 years of his life. And because of his job, he was moved every few years to a new city. And by late 70s, the three older siblings had left Iran to proceed their studies or work, and my parents and two younger sisters stayed in Iran. And Roya was accepted to University of Shiraz. So when at the time my father retired, they moved back to Shiraz in 1980 to be close to Roya. But the pressure on the Baha'is increased, and soon my father lost his retirement pension, and Roya was expelled from university, both for being Baha'is. They knew that if they recant their faith, they would get these rights back. But they started to focus their life on supporting the community who was under a lot of pressure, and they opened their home to a lot of Baha'i families who had lost their homes as a result of oppositions in the city or the war that was happening at the time. And this movement of coming and going of people who were not family members, I think, attracted the attention of authorities, and therefore our house was raided twice. The first time in 1981, November of 1981, when they came and arrested all members of the family, including two visitors that were visiting at the time. But after a few days, once they knew that this is not related to any political parties, they let them go back. However, a year later, in November of 1982, one night they came back. And this time, they collected anything in the house. They went through the house and collected anything that had any sign of the faith. Whether it was books, frames, pictures, photo albums, personal notes that, for example, they have been taken, my sister had been taken during studying Baha'i books. Everything was collected, and then they had the name of my parents and my sister, Roya. The youngest in the family objected and said that whatever we have done it together. And I want to go with them. And they said, no, your name is not on the list. One of the images that haunts me up to now is imagining my parents saying goodbye to their baby, their youngest, who was 17 at the time. When my father was hugging my sister, whispered in her ear that, don't stay alone at night. Go find someone to stay with you. They may come back. I can imagine their anxiety and their fear, not only for their own life, but for the life of their little girl. And they left. And I know the pain of my little sister. All of a sudden, in an empty house, the loved one has been taken away, and alone, the phone lines has been cut so that she cannot communicate. So she braved the night, went out and found one of the relatives who lived in the neighborhood to come and stay with her. The next morning, they found out that 40 other homes in the city, 40 other Baha'i homes have been raided and people have been arrested. For 1 month, no one knew where they were. And the prisoners have no way of knowing what happened to their loved ones. 1 month being in a prison and not knowing what is happening to their loved one is a very, very long time. After 1 month of intense interrogations and torture, they were moved to another prison where they were allowed visitors. So my younger sister had to go to visit our father every Wednesday and our mother and sister every Saturday for 5 minutes from behind a glass wall and through phone lines monitored by the authorities. And I can imagine every time their longing to hold on to each other, to hug each other, but all they could do is to hold on to their gaze, each other's gaze, and communicate through their eyes. What can you say in 5 minutes through the phone line when you haven't seen each other for so long? Many different stories, many beautiful stories. Every time that these visits happen was a story. But I'll share with you 2 of them. One was the time that it was a springtime and my mother asked her youngest daughter, how is the spring? Has the orange trees in our home blossomed? And my sister said, yes, Mom. And my mom said, inhale the aroma for me. When my sister came home that day, she cried for hours. She felt guilty of inhaling the aroma of orange blossom when her mother, whose harm has not even touched an ant, is in prison. Another time, Roya was very excited and told my sister that I have seen our father. And it was great. He had his beard, and I talked to him. Later on, from those who had left the prison, my sister found out that during a group interrogation, all these, or a large number of these Baha'i prisoners were taken to one room, blindfolded, facing the wall, and they were told that either accept Islam or face execution. Of course, these prisoners have often explained that the Baha'is accept all the prophets of God, but that wasn't what they wanted. Deny your faith or face execution. During that meeting, Roya senses that our father is in the same room. So she begs the judge to let her turn her head and just look at our father. And the judge thinks that, oh, this is a good opportunity. Let me let the immediate families to meet and encourage each other to recant their faith and go home. And then he starts to see the tender interaction between Roya and her father, touching his beard and telling, oh, Dad, I love it that you have a beard. I had never seen you like that. And my father explaining that we can't shave here in prison and all of that. So the judge says, why do you put yourself in such an agony? All you have to do is one word. Say you're not a Baha'i and I'll let you all go. I'll let your father get his pension back. You can go back to university. You will have a good life. And Roya said, Your Honor, even though the love between parents and children is normal, but the love of God and my faith takes precedence. And he said, are you going to say the same thing during execution? And she said, I pray that I will stay firm until my last breath. And they all stayed firm until their last breath, one by one. The sad thing is that although in the beginning the focus was on the Baha'is, but over time it has affected anyone who dares to want their own right, anyone who dares to speak to want justice. And so many have lost lives, have lost eyesight, and every time something like this happens, it really starts to hurt again. All those pains that 40 years ago we experienced, all of that starts to become real again. And the fact is that not until we all put the welfare and well-being of all humanity in forefront of our minds and thoughts, not until we plant the seed of love and compassion in all our hearts, we won't have justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Maslin, for sharing that moving history about your family. It is important to always remember what so many precious souls have sacrificed. With this thought in mind, may I introduce our next speaker, Mr. Enayat Rawhani, who will talk about the importance of the principle of the equality of men and women in the Baha'i faith and its importance for mankind.
Good evening. I think every lovely thing has been said. And even the question of equality of men and women has been so eloquently expressed and demonstrated in the lives of those who gave their lives for the establishment of these principles. So I share with you what may also assist. As I was researching what had befallen the lives of those who suffered in the path of truth, I came across something from an Austrian doctor. I'll share that with you in a minute. Keep that in suspense. In order to be able to talk about equality of women and men, and you notice Abdul Baha, the son of Baha'u'llah, the expounder of his words and the interpreter of his words, he often referred to women and men, equality of women and men, to underscore the fact that the time has come for people to fully realize that women are no different from men and they have equal human rights. We're not saying men and women are the same. They're not the same, but they're complementary elements in the human society. Women have certain attributes, as Abdul Baha shared, and it was read out so beautifully, that men cannot live without. Stamina, Abdul Baha said, is one of the qualities of women that men may envy. Stamina. that sort of strength that men need to be able to be complemented, to exist, even to survive. Women are not just means of procreation of children, but also to complement their parents in being better human beings. And this principle, the faith of Baha'u'llah and the faith of the Bab, they both try to inculcate, not only as a matter of principle, but as a matter of something that they would manifest in their lives. Men and women would manifest in their lives, in their daily lives, that they are equal, and exemplify by their behavior. There's a very strong Baha'i belief that we have, as the guardian of the faith, Shoghi Effendi, described. He said, not by the force of numbers, not by a mere exposition of a set of noble principles, nor even by the staunchness of our faith and the exalted character of our beliefs can we hope to vindicate in the eye of a skeptical society the truth of the Abha revelation, meaning the revelation of Baha'u'llah. One thing and only one thing will undoubtedly and alone vindicate that truth. And that is, he says, is the extent to which the inner life and private character of individuals mirror forth in their manifold aspects the splendor of those divine principles proclaimed and enunciated by Baha'u'llah. That's what Baha'is should be striving for. Men and women have at all times, Baha'u'llah says, been equal. He says that categorically. But what is happening now is that the equality is now to be brought to focus for humanity's betterment and greater civilization. One of those who, in the early days of the faith, exemplified without fear was a great Persian poet, named by Baha'u'llah as Tahira, meaning the pure one. Tahira was a great poet, fearless, so renowned that when she spoke, hundreds, nay, thousands, on a few occasions I checked the facts, 2,000-3,000 people attended her sermons. A woman in 1844 or 45 or 46, unheard of, absurd, people thought, but she attracted so many people. Her poetry is beyond measure. I wish there was time we could recite in Persian and translate for you. You can capture those yourselves. And she was also beautiful. The king of Iran, Nasiruddin Shah, proposed and got nowhere. She only got a quadrant back from the poems of Tahirih, in which she really put him in his place for where he stood and sought to be left alone for what she was pursuing. So she was fearless. And when eventually the enemies of the faith plotted and tried to destroy her and kill her, very, very courageously she said, you know, you can kill me, certainly, but you won't be able to stop the emancipation of women. That was one of the messages. She was the first one that amongst a large number of early believers of the faith, there were 81 of them, in the year 2-3 of the faith of the Bab, in 1846 or 7. They were basically men. And Baha'u'llah was present there too. They were all his guests. The expenses of the entire 22 days that 81 people were present was paid for by Baha'u'llah. He did that so that they would come together to recognize the oneness of their faith, the universality of their faith. And at that time, it was the faith of the Bab that Baha'u'llah was promoting in this manner. Tahirah, in consultation with another disciple of the Bab, we call them letters of the living. Living in Arabic is Hay. Hay has a numerical value of 18, and there were 18 first believers in the Bab. And they were present over there. Tahirah, in consultation with number 18, let's say, because she herself was number 17 of the 18 letters of the living, and in consultation with Baha'u'llah, staged this plan where, of course, she had Baha'u'llah's approval. And unbeknown to the rest of the world, 17 and 18, meaning Tahirah and Quddus, were quite clear who Baha'u'llah was, and that he, in fact, was the one that had been referred to by the Bab as him whom God shall make manifest after him, for whom the Bab himself had given his life and the lives of over 20,000 of his followers, liberally, to pave the way for that day when the beloved of the world, Baha'u'llah, would come. Tahirah, in consultation with Quddus and Baha'u'llah, appeared before the men unveiled. And that was not an easy day, not even for some of the believers. A few ran away, one or two cut their own throats, for they could not live to see the day of God in which such a matter, meaning the equality of women and men, would in such a dramatic manner would come to pass. Imagine that. Even cutting their own throat, because they could not live to see that day. So blunt. Today we talk about it so easily, but then it was heroic what Tahirah did. So eventually she was arrested. Let me tell you something that might appear funny, but it was very strange. When the conference of Badasht, where these people were together, these 81 people, when it concluded and they left, guess how Tahirah left? She left in the same carriage as the young Quddus, number 18 of the letters of the living. So what? I mean, you young ones do travel together in the same car, in the same carriage, or anyway. But at that time, it seemed preposterous to the society in which they lived. But fearlessly, these two early disciples of the Bab sat together to demonstrate their oneness, to demonstrate their support of the belief in the sight of their fellow believers who might need that sort of exemplified behavior of a principle enunciated by the Bab. So eventually, as Tahirah said, you may kill me, but you will not stop the emancipation of women. And because of that and they killed her, of course, and they threw her in a well, dried up well. Imagine that. It is because of what she did as the first lady in Iran at that time that we have so much more freedom. These people did exemplify. Now let me go back to the Austrian doctor that I said I'll tell you the story of. Because I was researching, not only reading Baha'i history and Baha'i writings about the early days of the faith, I wanted to find other writings, because I knew there were people in the days of the Bab and Baha'u'llah from the Western society that were coming to Iran, and you know some of them, such as Edward and Brown, that actually met Baha'u'llah. There were several others who had been there. And one of them is this person, this Austrian doctor by the name of Dr. Schalmer. He was there, actually, the story I have is written by himself. He said, I was summoned by the king of Iran, Nasser-Din Shah, who was a great opponent to Baha'u'llah and did all he could to destroy the faith, and never succeeded, of course, because we're here. I was in his presence and I was healing him. Suddenly there was this loud chanting in Arabic that we heard. What was it? I asked the king. Who are these? Dr. Shalmi spoke Persian too, and he was teaching at the Dar al-Funun, Tehran Polytechnic. And now he was there to give a prescription for the king and heal him and so on. So he heard the voices of those people who were with Baha'u'llah in the dungeon into which he had wrongly been thrown in 1853. For their consolation, Baha'u'llah had taught them to chant together a verse that shows that their total reliance is on God. When I finish, the chanting would be played and we would hear the verse itself. One group would chant. There were 150 odd people there present, including Baha'u'llah. They would chant in Arabic that God is the only one that would suffice me. And the other group would say, in him let the trusting trust. Now their voice coming out of prison reached the palace of the king. It wasn't far. They were very close to one another. The dungeon was close there. They would throw them in there at his behest. So the king and the Austrian doctor, Dr. Schalmer, heard. And the king was perturbed by it. He wasn't so well. And then there was a lot of noise in the corridors of the palace. And suddenly the king's mother, Mahda Awliya, the source of all the problems, came in shaking her arms like this. Dr. Sharma said, for as long as Baha'u'llah lives, there would be no peace in this country. And the king was too ill to deal with that. He just motioned her to leave the room. But she had a lot of power behind the throne. She was the cause of him becoming the king. You can study the history yourselves, how she brought him from Azerbaijan, Tabriz, to Tehran at the age of 18 to ascend the throne when his father, Muhammad Shah, had passed away, as opposed to the one that was actually the crown prince to be. Because the king, the former king, had quite a few wives. So Dr. Schalmer was very perturbed. He said to the king, but these people, do they believe in God? Nasser-Din Shah said, yes, they do believe in God. Do they accept Muhammad? He said, yes, they do. But they have a new claim to revelation. And he said they are thrown into prison, into a dungeon. Nasser-Din Shah said, yes. And why would a Muslim do that sort of a thing to others who also recognize the truth of Muhammad? And they're not denying that. The king didn't have much time for that sort of thing. He said, you don't understand these things. He said, no, obviously, evidently I don't. And then he was taking his leave. And the king said, do you want to see them? He said, yes, please. He said, I'll send someone with you to go to the dungeon and see them. And when you go there, said Nasser-Din Shah, ask who Baha'u'llah is. Which one of them is Baha'u'llah? This is written by Dr. Schalmer. That's where I read it. It was written in German and then translated into English and other languages. So he goes, he's guided to the underground dungeon wherein Baha'u'llah had been thrown. And you've read in Nabil's narrative the few steps you go down to go in there. And he went in there and it was dark. He asked for the door to be kept, the big door to be kept open so that some light may enable him to see these men. He said, wow, all around this dungeon, they were chained, every 5 or 6 together, heavy chains. And on their necks, there was a weight that had brought their necks down. So I went in there and I asked, who is Baha'u'llah amongst you? He said, I noticed Baha'u'llah, obviously, pressed his hand in the, because it was a former ugly, dirty, smelly underground dungeon. So in the slush Baha'u'llah pressed, they were all seated, pressed his hands down to be able to bear the weight on his neck and shoulder, to lift his head, meaning that he was Baha'u'llah. He said, I went forward and I asked him, why are they doing this? He said, because we have loved God's best beloved and we are promoting his teachings. And this, Baha'u'llah said, is being done by the government of a country, Iran, whose fame of civilization, even thousands of years ago, had reached all corners of the world. Now, they deem us to be worthy of bondage and to be put in this condition. And what do we want? What we are promoting is oneness and service to the world of humanity. Is this not what your countries wish to have? Dr. Sharma said, I came out of there. I was in a terrible condition. I decided I would rush to my office and write down, before I forgot, that awful yet memorable occasion when I met Baha'u'llah and others in prison with him. So this is, Baha'u'llah did not announce these beautiful principles and get away from torture and punishment. As you read the history of the faith, this is one example by someone who wasn't even a believer in the faith. He was a Christian man, Dr. Sharma. So Baha'u'llah took a lot. And in his own words, he says, no one has suffered as much as I have suffered. So, in conclusion, it's not been, our story is one and the same. We have suffered. Some of us have suffered but have not been martyred, like the blessed souls, your mother and sister. I personally thought I wasn't worthy, so I wasn't. That's why I'm in your presence tonight. But we must remember the aim was to demonstrate through the force of example the changes for the better that we are seeking through our devotion, not just generosity of spirit, but devotion and sacrifice, even if we are called upon to sacrifice our very lives, the most precious thing. Now we hear what they chanted as I leave your presence and wish you a very good night.
the trusting,